The Donkey by G.K. Chesterton. Read for LibriVox.org by Noel Badrian, County Offaly, Ireland. When fishes flew and forests walked, and figs grew upon thorn, some moment when the moon was blood, then surely I was born, with monstrous head and sickening cry, and ears like errant wings, the devil's walking parody on all four-footed things, the tattered outlaw of the earth, of ancient crooked will. Starve, scourge, deride me, I am dumb, I keep my secret still. Fools, for I also had my hour, one far fierce hour and sweet. There was a shout about my ears, and palms before my feet. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
You are invited to listen to another chapter of the dramatized story, The Life of Christ, brought to you transcribed each week by the Barrymore Friars, who offer this series with a prayerful hope that this vivid portrayal of the life of Christ will help to awaken in you a deeper personal love of God and a firm determination to strive to prove that love in your daily life. Now, Chapter 34, The Procession of Palms.
Behold, the Lord hath made it to be heard in the ends of the earth. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout for joy, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy Savior cometh. He is poor and riding upon a colt, the foal of an ass. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work before him.
Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand, and many from the country went up to Jerusalem before the Passover, in order to purify themselves. And they were looking for Jesus. And they stood in the temple, and were saying to one another, What do you think? That he is not coming to the feast? But the chief priests of the temple had given orders that if anyone knew where Jesus was, he should report it, so that they might seize him. And they sent out their spies that they might discover where Jesus was. At Jerusalem, Caiaphas summoned his chief scribe to him.
You sent for me, Caiaphas?
Yes, Edna. Have you any news of Jesus?
I have indeed. After hiding out in the Ephraim wilderness, he now appears openly, defiantly, I would say, at Bethany.
What? He's less than 2 miles from the temple?
At this very moment, he's at the house of Simon the leper, and with him is Lazarus, whom, as you know, he raised from the tomb.
Do the people know of this?
I have a feeling they do. I stood at the gate and watched many leave, headed for Bethany.
We can no longer tolerate this man. If we let him alone as he is, all will believe in him. And then the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation.
Pilate will be here for the Passover.
Yes. He may arrive tonight, tomorrow at the latest. We're determined that if Jesus decides to enter the city, it will be his last visit.
It's but 6 days before the feast. Feeling is running high. There's an air of expectancy, whisperings among the people.
Yes, I know. We'd like very much to take Jesus quietly before the feast and have the matter settled.
It's going to be difficult. He's heavily guarded by the Galileans, who would like nothing better than to see him proclaimed king and drive out the Romans.
Could you arrange to plant a spy within his camp so we know in advance what his plans are?
I doubt if that can be done. However, I think there's a way to get the information.
How? By all means, tell me.
As you know, he's surrounded by 12 whom he has chosen as his disciples, or apostles, as he calls them.
Yes, that's common knowledge.
I believe that one of these 12 has not been chosen wisely. That is, from Jesus' point of view.
What do you mean?
I've made a thorough study of every man. I've investigated them before they came to Jesus. In my reports, you'll find intimate details of their lives. 11 of these would give their lives for Jesus. But
who is the 12th?
Judas Iscariot. I think he can be reached.
Why do you think so? We have to be sure.
First, he's the only one who's not a Galilean. He's Judean, and I think the others have made him aware of his unique position. He is also the treasurer of the group and has a love of money. He's the best educated of the 12 and of questioning nature. Where the others accept Jesus by faith, he's a businessman, a former administrator, and inclined to be hard-headed about everything, including miracles. He's a moderate man, not given to extreme.
Why then does he throw in his lot with this radical who would trample our traditions in the dust?
I suppose when he saw Jesus could gather people to him, he joined with the idea that if the movement ever amounted to anything, he would be in a good position. But time's dragged on. Judas seems bored with these endless miracles that make the innocent gape, but get the disciples no place. He once confided in me...
Ah, then you've talked to him recently?
I had an interesting talk with him that day Jesus spoke in Capharnaum, right after feeding a lot of people. The day so many turned from him over the question of what Jesus termed the bread of life. Himself, in fact, which he invited people to eat. I was watching Judas. He seemed embarrassed. It was then I got the idea he might be useful to us. He confided to me then that Jesus had missed his opportunity when the crowd tried to proclaim him king.
Yes, I recall the incident. You may be sure we amplified the report when sending it on to Pilate. Now get to Bethany and keep your eyes and ears open. And see if you can approach this, what's his name?
Judas.
This Judas. Tell him he'll be paid if he'll tell us when we can find Jesus alone at night.
I regret this in a way, when I think of what Jesus might have been had he come with us and worked through the official organization for our nation.
We have no choice, Abner. He's forced us into a position where we have to acknowledge him as the Messiah or deny him and execute him for blasphemy. He forced the issue, not I.
I've gone over all the evidence. In effect, he's blasphemed. But in technical point of the law, I'm not so sure we have a case.
Then we'll bring a political charge against him and force Pilate to act. This I would prefer. Let the people vent their anger against the Romans. But one way or another, he must die.
Bethany is a village at the foot of Mount Olivet, and the name means Village of Dates, so called because of the groves of date palms surrounding it. Here in the house of Simon, brother-in-law of Lazarus, Jesus reclined at the table surrounded by friends. Quietly the door opened, and Mary of Magdala, sister of Lazarus, entered the room, and unnoticed by anyone, made her way to Jesus.
Peter, what is that?
What, Judas?
That odor. Well, can't you smell it?
Oh, yes. Perfume. A very delightful perfume. I wonder where it's coming from.
It's bicarnard. Very rare and expensive.
Look. It comes from there. That woman who anoints the master. She has a jar.
Woman! You! Woman! Stop! Stop!
What is it?
What's the matter? What is the meaning of this, woman?
What is it, Judas?
Woman, this jar of ointment is worth at least 300 denarii. Why do you trouble her?
Why was this ointment not sold and the money given to the poor?
She has done me a good turn.
But with 300 denarii, we could buy food for the poor.
The poor you have always with you, but you do not always have me. For in pouring this ointment on my body, she has done it for my burial.
Master, your burial.
Let her be. Amen, I say to you, wherever in the whole world this gospel be preached, this also that she has done shall be told in memory of her.
Oh, very well, Master.
Judas, where are you going?
Make my excuses, Peter. I'm going to get some air.
Judas, don't leave in anger. The Master was not talking to you alone, but to all of us.
Isn't he the one always talking about helping the poor? Yet he permits a woman to pour perfume at 300 denarii a jar over his head. Just let me be, Peter. A walk will do me good. Judas! Who calls me?
I.
Abner. What are you doing here?
Need you ask? You know the Sanhedrin has charged me with keeping track of Jesus.
Oh, yes, I guessed as much.
I confess the assignment interests me. I have a normal man's curiosity. I'm a bit like you, Judas.
What do you mean by that? What do you know of me? Or of my thoughts?
I'm like you in this. If Jesus is the Messiah, I'd want to be on the winning side. You would be the first to agree that if he's the Messiah, there's no need for us, that is, the priests.
Precisely.
You may be sure Caiaphas realizes that. But Judas, if he's not the Messiah, then what? Don't tell me you've not considered that possibility.
I must confess, I've considered it. At times.
Of course, if you're positive, you'd be a fool to leave him. Are you positive, Judas?
I've seen him do many things which would seem to indicate
that he's a minor prophet, or a man gifted with great power. But that's a long step to the Messiah. Take the feeding of the 5,000. Moses did that and more. Or take this recent incident of Lazarus.
The man was in the tomb 4 days.
That could have been arranged. They're good friends. Couldn't Lazarus have retired to the tomb and just gone to sleep for 4 days?
Jesus at first said, Lazarus, our friend, sleeps. Then when we said, if he sleeps, he will be safe, Jesus changed his story to one of Lazarus being dead.
Just my point. You notice all along Jesus doesn't come out and say he's the Messiah. He performs a miracle, makes a great to-do about not wanting anyone to be told about it, as if a leper cured could be hidden. Then he lets the people say that he's this, that, and the other. It's a safe policy. But if Jesus is the Messiah, why doesn't he come out and say so? Do you know what I think, Judas?
What, Abner?
He's never going to declare himself. Why? Because he knows he's merely the son of a carpenter and a woman of Nazareth, born into the world the same as you and I, but will not die of old age like ourselves.
Why do you say that?
Judas, you're a reasonable man, one who can look at a ledger and see profit or loss at a glance.
You didn't stop me to praise my eyes. What's on your mind, Abner?
Very well, then, to business. You realize Jesus is doomed.
Strange you should speak of it.
How so?
I have the feeling that Jesus himself thinks so, too. A few moments ago, a woman anointed him. I objected to the waste. Abner, she had a jar of ointment worth 300 denarii and poured it over his head as if it were water. I objected, and he rebuked me in front of the whole room, saying that she was preparing him for burial.
What? Are you sure he suspects
Oh,
that we...
come, Abner, you just told me I'm no fool.
You've trailed Jesus for months, trying to trap him into saying something which would condemn him. But he was always ahead of you, as if he could read your thoughts. His death has been only a question of time, with the Sanhedrin setting the time. When is it to be, Abner?
I see we understand each other. The time? When we can take him quietly so as not to disturb the people. But it must be before the feast.
Ah, that is wise.
So if someone would come to us and say, on such and such a night, Jesus will be without his Galileans at such and such a place.
Yes?
That man would be paid for his words. I have to get back to the city, Judas. If you know of anyone who would like to make some easy money, will you pass the word? I can always be reached at the home of the high priest.
The news that Jesus was at Bethany with Lazarus spread, and the people poured out from Jerusalem to welcome him and to march with him into Jerusalem. And they surrounded the house and were joined by bands of pilgrims who had come from all corners for the Passover. And earlier that morning, Jesus, knowing what was in store for him, spoke to his disciples.
Go into the village opposite you, and immediately on entering it, you will find a colt tied, upon which no man has yet sat. Loose it, and bring it.
But won't the owner object to us taking his animal?
Should anyone say to you, "What are you doing?" you will say that the Lord has need of it, and immediately he will send it.
Come, Judas. Let's you and I go for the colt.
Why me? Peter, I don't relish this. We'd look foolish if we were taken before the magistrate and charged with stealing a colt.
We risk our very lives now for being with the Master. So why concern yourself with the fear of arrest for stealing? But have no fear. The owner will not object when he knows what the colt's for.
And, just what is it for?
I don't know.
Are you sure? The master confides in you and the others? Not in me, however.
Judas, that is not true. He treats us all alike. But of late, you're the one who has been to yourself.
It's you who has always said, when we questioned, that the master had a purpose in everything he did, no matter how strange it might seem to us.
Yes? Yes, I have, Judas. And it's true. Judas, I know the purpose. Come, let's hurry.
Peter, wait. What is it? You realize something. Your face went white.
Scripture. The Scripture. Isaiah. Remember the passage? Tell the daughter of Zion, behold, thy king comes to thee, meek and seated upon a colt, the foal of a beast of burden. Judas, we're at the brink of great events. I feel the time has come. Before this Passover is finished, Jesus will reveal unto us all that he has promised. Come, come, Judas, don't look so downcast.
I see nothing but trouble ahead. Fighting and bloodshed. Yes, now indeed his words come home to me. Do not think that I have come to send peace upon earth. I have come to bring a sword, not peace. And brother will hand over brother to death, and the father his child.
Yes, all that he said. But two, he who does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me.
Cross? What does he mean by cross? Whatever he means, it's a harsh saying, Peter. Can't you understand me when I say there will be trouble? Trouble such as Jerusalem has never known before
If what, Judas?
If we find this colt, and he rides it into Jerusalem, with the people knowing the significance of the animal.
Judas, look. There is a she-ass. And her foal. Just as he said we would find it.
They loosed the colt and brought it to Jesus. And when it was seen that he was to mount it, a disciple spread a cloak on the colt's back. And the people spread their cloaks on the road. But many ran to the palm grove and cut branches and put them along his path. And this they did, and in the doing of it were they fulfilling the words of the Scripture.
Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. We bless you out of the house of the Lord. The Lord is God and has shone upon us. Appoint a solemn procession with leafy branches, even to the horns of the altar. Thou art my God, and I give thanks to thee, my God. I extol thee with praises. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His mercy endures forever.
I ran on ahead. They're out of control. Listen to them. We avail nothing. Behold, the entire world has gone after him. If ever I had any misgivings of what course I must take, my duty to my people now is clear. It is expedient for us that one man die for the people instead of the whole nation perishing. Did you see Judas?
Yes.
Will he deliver Jesus to us?
He did not promise, but neither did he refuse.
There lies Jerusalem. Shall we enter by the Golden Gate?
O Jerusalem, if thou hadst known in this thy day, even thou, the things that are for thy peace, but now they are hidden from thy eyes. For days will come upon thee, when thy enemies will throw up a rampart about thee, and surround thee and shut thee in on every side, and will dash thee to the ground and thy children within thee, and will not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou hast not known the time of thy visitation.
And he went into Jerusalem, into the temple. But when he had looked on all things, then, as it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. And in the city, Abner the scribe conferred with Caiaphas the high priest throughout the night.
Now everything is understood, Abner. You will proceed with the utmost caution.
Of course.
As the hour is late, I suggest... What is it?
Someone's coming.
At this hour? Then it's the watch. Open it, Abner. I am Caiaphas, high priest. Why do you call at this hour?
I am Judas Iscariot.
Cigarettes presents the Screen Guild Players. It's the opening night of the Screen Guild Players on the air for Camel. Our stars, Bing Crosby, Ingrid Bergman, and Joan Carroll. Our play, The Bells of St. Mary. Our sponsor, Camel Cigarettes. And our host, Mr. G. Herschel, President of the Motion Picture Relief Fund. Mr. Herschel.
Good evening. Tonight is the first broadcast of the Screen Guild Players for its new sponsor, the makers of Camel Cigarettes. And I'd like to give you an idea of the great entertainment we have planned for you this season. Clark Gable, Bette Davis, Gary Cooper, Claudette Colbert, Van Johnson, Gregory Peck, Betty Grable, Cary Grant, and a host of others. Yes, the greatest stars and the greatest picture triumphs, and they'll all be here for you every Monday night through the cooperation of the entire motion picture industry. I hope you won't miss a single one. And now, the first play of our new season, The Bells of St. Mary's, starring Ingrid Bergman, Bing Crosby, and Joan Carroll.
The Bells of St. Mary's. Just a school song, you might say, and yet for some it was a hymn, a litany, a dedication. They tell me I made quite a splash at St. Mary's. The very first day I arrived, in fact. You see, Sister Benedict was head of the school, and she thought I did a formal introduction.
Children, this is our new pastor, Father O'Malley, and I'm sure he has something very important to say to you. Father?
Well, children, you're going to see a lot of me in the future. I'm going to be around here a great deal. So you're going to hear the shortest speech ever made. This is a holiday. Everybody takes a day off.
Oh, Father O'Malley.
Pretty effective speech, huh?
I am sure they loved it.
Well, when we were kids, we used to just live for holidays. You know, we should never get too far away from our childhood.
But you can't call a holiday just like that. You have to get permission of the superintendent of schools. Oh, Father, what will we tell the superintendent?
Maybe I'll give him a holiday, too.
Father, would you like to look around the school?
No time like the present, Sister Michael. Oh, it's a lot different from the school I went to.
Where, Father?
Missouri. Where'd you come from, Sister?
I was born in Sweden, but when I was very young, I came...
Don't tell me. Minnesota?
Well, that's right, Father.
And from what I hear, Father, Sister Benedict was quite a tomboy in those days.
So?
I must admit I played baseball with the boys.
Of course, you were pretty good with the stick.
Mm-hmm. I used to hit over 300.
Brooklyn could have used you today. But I guess we all had it a lot better than these kids. Heavens, they don't even have a place to play.
That used to be our playground over there.
Where that new building's going up?
Yes, we had to sell the ground.
We needed the money to fix our old school. They were going to condemn it.
Gee, you know, it's too bad you don't have a nice new building like that one they're putting up over there. That would be the answer to everything.
Confidentially, Father, that's what we've been praying for.
You've been praying for what?
That the owner will wake up one morning and give it to us.
That who will wake up when and give you what?
Oh, Mr. Bogardus, the owner.
Oh, wait a minute. Let's be practical. Let's face it. Does Mr. Bogardus know anything about it? Has anyone asked him?
No, we've just prayed.
We're relying on you to help us, Father. We thought you might talk to Mr. Bogart.
Well, I'll be glad to, sister. Only one thing.
What?
What'll I do when he says, no? What do you think Mr. Bogart has told me?
No.
He said it 7 different ways, and then he made me a counteroffer. He wanted to buy the old school and tear it down for a parking lot. And frankly, I was more than a little on his side. St. Mary's was old, and there was a new school not too far away, and I was all for recommending the sale, except I hadn't figured on Sister Benedict.
There must always be a St. Mary's. There must always be a St. Mary's.
Yes, St. Mary's was more than a school to her. It was a shrine. And while she'd laugh with me when we differed over little things, she'd fight for the big things to her last breath. The big things. I guess they began with Patsy Gallagher, or should I say with Patsy's mother.
You see, Father, my husband left me a long time ago. 13 years to be exact, before Patsy was born.
And you've raised her yourself? You've been supporting her all this time?
I suppose you're wondering as to how. So is she. She's getting to be a big girl now, Father. She's beginning to think I'm no good. I want to put her in your care before she finds out she's right.
Well, I feel anyone who's as much concerned about her daughter as you are isn't doing too badly. If there was anything really wrong with you, then give it time.
Then you'll take her, Father. She can live here at the school?
I think it can be arranged. And I'll make a deal with you.
Yes?
I'll take care of Patsy. You take care of yourself. Sister Benedict, I've been meaning to talk to you.
Yes, Father?
It's about that new girl, Patsy. The one that started a couple weeks ago. How's she doing, Sister?
I'm afraid not very well.
No? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Father, when we accepted this child, it was on your recommendation. We know very little about her parents. What kind of home life did she have?
Oh, you know, the usual...
You said you met her mother?
Yes. Yes, I met her.
Do you know Mrs. Gallagher well?
Yes, you might say I know her quite well.
And her father, did you meet him?
No, I've heard about him.
Are they separated?
Well, yes, they are.
Is there anything else that I should know? Anything that would help?
Well, no, that's all that I...
Care to tell?
Well, yes, that's all.
Did anyone ever tell you that you had a dishonest face? For a priest, I mean.
I thought I'd drop in tonight, Patsy, see how you were doing. How you doing?
Not too well, Father.
Well, what's the problem?
It's an essay, Father. The 5 senses.
The 5 senses. Now, there's an interesting subject. What have you discovered about them?
Nothing. See what I mean?
Oh, here now. What are the 5 senses, Patsy?
Well, to see, to hear, to taste, to smell, and to feel.
That's right. Who's this essay for?
Sister Benedict.
Sister Benedict. Oh, we'll have to take dead aim on this one. See if we can get you an A. Now, let's see. Man is endowed with certain powers which we call 5 senses. Now, if he has common sense, he will get great happiness out of life by using these powers within a right reason. Now, for instance, you're happy you came to St. Mary's, aren't you?
Oh, yes, Father.
That's what I mean, to be glad you're alive. To be grateful because people are kind to you and to be able to see some of nature's great wonders. The budding of the flowers in spring and the changing of leaves in the autumn. To be able to appreciate beautiful music. To be conscious of the beauty of tasting and feeling and hearing the things that are good for you. To be aware of why you're here. Oh, I could go on and on and on.
Well, why don't you, Father?
Now, let's see. Isn't that a piano?
Uh-huh.
Well, aren't these hands meant to play it?
Uh-huh.
Then I think I will.
What, Father?
And go on and on and on. Every time you're near a rose, aren't you glad you've got a nose? And if the dawn is fresh with dew, aren't you glad you're you? When a meadow lark appears, aren't Aren't you glad you've got two ears? And if your heart is singing too, aren't you glad you're you? You can see a summer sky, or touch a friendly hand, or taste an apple pie. Pardon the grammar, but ain't life grand? And when you wake up each morn, aren't you glad that you were born? Think what you've got the whole day through. Aren't you glad you're you? Well, Patsy, I'll leave you with these few little thoughts. What do you make of them?
Well, if you can't appreciate your five senses, then your life isn't worth 5 cents.
That's good. That's good. Well, I hope you do all right tomorrow.
Thank you, Father. I feel much better.
You know what?
What?
Feel pretty good myself.
Quiet, children. Everybody quiet now. Class, we are very fortunate in having Father O'Malley with us today. So we'll read some of our compositions aloud. Luther?
Luther? How'd he get in here?
Never knew. All right, Luther.
The 5 senses. I like the taste of ice cream cones with Italy strawberry. I like to listen to the Lone Ranger Ohio Silver. I like to smell hot dogs at the ballpark. I like to feel, good.
Now, don't laugh, children. Luther means he wants to be a good boy. He wants to feel good inside. Don't you, Luther?
No, sister. What I meant to feel good is like, when the bell rings at 3 o'clock. Or when it's Easter vacation, better still. That's what I mean to feel good.
Well, after all, Father, it has both honesty and imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Luther. Now, you, Patsy?
The 6 senses.
Well, the subject I gave you was the 5 senses.
Well, I chose for my subject 6 senses.
Well, go on, Patsy, go on.
The 6 senses. To see, to hear, to taste, to smell, to feel, and to be. And the most important is the last. The 6th sense is to be able to enjoy the other 5 senses properly. To be. That's what really matters. It's like a world inside us, and it's up to us what we make of it, through common sense. Common senses and internal senses function it is to differentiate between the various reports of the senses or to reduce these reports to the unity of a common perception. As William Shakespeare said...
Saved by the bell.
Thank you, Patsy. That was very good. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. All right, children, you may go.
Well, Sister Benedict, I really learned something.
Oh?
Patsy shows quite a lot of promise, don't you think?
Oh, definitely.
What are you going to give her? A B, perhaps?
Oh, no, I think at least an A.
Oh, good. That's fine.
As a matter of fact, I think it should be maybe A+. Don't you, Father?
Oh, that might be overdoing it a little.
It had a plus quality to it.
Yeah, well, a girl like Patsy needs a lot of encouragement. She has such a fine mind.
Yes, remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, she has the mentality of a man your age.
Well, there's another sense, you know, sister.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Don't tell me.
Yes, sense enough to know when to leave. Good afternoon.
In just a moment, you'll hear Act 2 of The Bells of St. Mary, starring Ingrid Bergman, Bing Crosby, and Joan Carroll. But first, a word about camels.
Experience is the best teacher.
A magnificent horse, glossy as satin, clears a high jump. In the saddle sits a beautiful young woman, one of the bright stars of the sports world. Her name is Pat Hackett. She's had years of experience in riding and training jumpers, and that experience shows as she clears that 5-bar jump. As Miss Hackett said,
experience is the best teacher in jumping a horse. It is in choosing a cigarette, too. The wartime cigarette shortage was a real experience. Of all the brands I smoked, Camels suit me best.
Throughout America, millions of smokers agree with Miss Hackett about Camels. Yes, smoking and comparing so many different brands during the wartime cigarette shortage made millions experts in judging the differences in cigarette quality. Having experience with so many different brands, smokers again and again found they prefer Camels for rich, full flavor, Camels for cool mildness. As a result,
more people are smoking Camels. than ever before.
Experience is the best teacher. Try a Camel yourself. C-A-M-E-L-S. And now, Act Two of The Bells of St. Mary, starring Bing Crosby, Ingrid Bergman, and Joan Carroll. Father O'Malley continues our story.
You know, the days skip right along when you're busy, and a school like St. Mary's can keep you pretty active. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, and then almost before I knew it.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love that song.
Yes, it's so fresh and gay.
Sister Benedict should play it more often.
Maybe spring should come twice a year.
How's that?
Oh, Father O'Malley.
Oh, no, don't let me slow you up. Don't stop. Tell me, you know Birmingham Bertha? Oh, you don't know that. Well, how about the school song, then?
Oh, yes. Sister Benedict has a new version of it with effects and everything. She's a bit proud of it.
Well, then sing that.
Won't you sing the melody, Father?
Sister, you talked me into it.
Oh, bells of St. Mary, we always will love you with your inspiration. We never will fail. Your charm will forever bring sweet memories of you. So proudly ring out while we sing out, Hail, hail, hail. So proudly ring out while we sing out, Hail, hail, hail. Won't you ring them bells?
Oh, I haven't had a chance like that in years. No, well, but it wasn't all laughs and music. There were some things that had me plenty worried. For one thing, that building next door was almost completed. Sister Benedict and the others went on praying serenely, confident that it was being finished for them. Of course, nobody bothered to ask Mr. Bogardus, and I shuddered to think what would happen when they did. That was one thing. And the other...
Come in. Oh, hello, Father.
Oh, don't get up. I'm just the pastor here. Well, grading the final exams, I see.
Yes, Father.
Ran into some of the girls out in the hall.
You did?
Yeah, they're sort of dying of curiosity, so I'm supposed to come in and, without your knowing it, of course, find out how they did. I presume you opened your heart and passed them all, huh?
All but one, Father. This one.
That's... Oh, no.
I'm sorry, Father.
But this is only one subject.
The others are even worse. Her average is below 60.
Well, she got the date right. She spelled her name right. Couldn't you give her something for that? Come on, add it up again. Maybe pass.
Don't you think the honor of the school means anything?
Well, but what about Patsy? She's just beginning to believe in herself. A blow like this, child may never get over it.
Father, believe me, my heart aches for Patsy, and I've done everything possible to help her, but I must uphold our standards. If you order me to pass her, I shall do so. But her mark remains the same.
Sister, you and I have had our little differences of opinion, but they haven't been important. This is serious. I'm not going to order you to do anything, but it's up to you.
But she failed.
Father O'Malley, I can't take it, I tell you. All those howling blasts around the place. The building's almost done. We'll be opening up pretty soon. How am I going to work with all that noise?
How do I?
Oh, now look here, Father. This is no joke. I'm a sick man. I've got a pretty bad heart.
I wonder why.
What do you mean, why?
Believe me, Mr. Bogartis, that's not just the pastor talking. I've got science on my side. Yes, sir, scientists say that there's nothing ever wasted in this world, and I was just wondering if that bum picker of yours might have some purpose.
Oh, Father O'Malley, you better come quickly.
What's happened?
Sister Benedict had a fainting spell in the chapel. She's quite ill.
I'll come right along.
Excuse me, Father. Is that included?
What?
That sister, I mean. Spends her whole life helping others. And now she's sick. You think that's got a purpose, too?
Who knows? Doctor.
Yes, Father?
How is she?
Well, she's running a little temperature. I understand she's had these attacks before.
So Sister Michael tells me. Yes, I hope it's not serious. She's such a remarkable woman.
She certainly is. Didn't even want to talk about herself. Just about that new building next door and Mr. Bogartis.
Yes, she's done a heap of praying for both.
Well, prayer's a wonderful thing, Father, but if Bogartis ever gives her that building, I'll...
Whoop, nothing spectacular now, Doctor.
Well, I hate to see her disillusioned. By the way, Father, how did you happen to call me in?
Oh, I've heard Bogartis talk about you. He talks quite a lot about you.
He talks quite a lot to me. Calls me a dozen times a day.
His heart's pretty bad, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
What are you giving him for it, pills?
Why? You got a better prescription?
Well, I knew a fellow once. He had a very bad heart. In fact, they only gave him 6 months to live, but he spent that 6 months doing so much good that, he lived to be 90.
Is that so? You mean doing good for others is good for a bad heart?
Well, you spend your whole life doing for others, don't you, Doctor?
Why, yes.
How's your heart?
Fine.
There you are. You mustn't ask me what really did it. The sister's prayers or the doctor's persuasion. Frankly, I don't see that it matters when heaven and science teamed up like that. But anyway, just a few days later...
Father O'Malley, you'll never guess. The most wonderful thing, a miracle.
So?
Mr. Bogartis just came to see me, and Father, he's going to give us his building. But he just told me. How did you know?
Well, I figured if fate could move mountains, sister, it could certainly budge Bogartis a few steps.
Father, everyone's so happy around here, Father. I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
Bad news, Doctor?
Sister Benedict. Can she be sent away for a while? Transferred to some easier job?
Oh, what is it, Doctor?
TB. A very early stage. We're lucky to catch it.
Does she know about it?
Well, normally I'd tell her, but it's such a light case, I don't want to worry her.
Oh, but she'll have to know about it. We can't send her away. But...
Don't you people more or less go where you're told without question?
Yeah. We're supposed to have the stamina to take it.
She has plenty of that.
But you don't quite understand, Doctor. You see, Sister and I haven't always agreed on how to run a school. In fact, we recently had one serious difference of opinion. Now, if she's sent away without explanation, why, she's bound to think it's because of...
Father, up to here we were discussing her health. What's best for her. And now we're discussing your feelings.
It's a heck of a way to put it, Doc.
I only want to see her get well.
That's the trouble, Doctor, and so do I.
Perfect, Father. The building can be used as a school with hardly any alteration. As if God himself had been the architect.
That's fine.
And now we can finally tear down our old school, and that can become our playground. And, it is all so wonderful. And I'm tired.
You've been working too hard.
Oh, it's just the excitement. Father, I'm so happy. I have only one more wish.
One wish?
That we have no more misunderstandings. Serious ones, I mean.
Like Patsy, huh? You still disagree with me, don't you?
Father, sometimes we must do things that aren't easy. No matter how much they hurt us, we have to do what we believe is right.
I have something to tell you, sister, that isn't going to be easy.
Oh, what is that, Father?
Well, you'll be notified shortly that Sister Michael will be in charge here next year.
Oh, she'll be so happy. And will I be her assistant?
It's only fair to tell you, sister, that you're being transferred.
It's going to be difficult to leave St. Mary's. But we shouldn't become too attached to any one place. Any other school may seem strange at first, but as long as I'm around children, I'll be happy. I'll be happy. Dear God, help me. Dear God, remove all bitterness from my heart. Please help me to see thy holy will in all things. Help me, oh, please help me.
Sister Benedict?
Yes.
Sister, the cab is here.
Thank you, I'm coming now.
Goodbye, Sister Benedict.
Goodbye, sister.
Sister Benedict, we know your heart will be here, and we'll always remember you in our prayers.
Thank you. Goodbye, Father. Goodbye, sister.
Sister Benedict, wait.
Yes, Father.
Sister, I can't let you go like this. When the doctor said you were perfect, he was right. For that's what you are. But he didn't mean physically. Because, sister, you have a touch of tuberculosis.
Then that's
the doctor felt, he felt we shouldn't worry about it, but...
Thank you, Father. You've made me very happy. I'll get well quickly now.
Oh, of course you will, sister.
Of course I will.
And remember, if you ever need anything, no matter where it is or where you happen to be, just dial O for O'Malley.
I'll remember, Father. O for O'Malley.
Thank Crosby and Joan Carroll for your magnificent performances in The Bells of St. Mary.
We all love the story, Mr. Herschel, so it was nice to renew our friendship with it. And it was an extra pleasure to appear on the Screen Guild program for Camel Cigarettes, knowing that it helped support the wonderful work of the Motion Picture Relief Fund and its country house. And there's another wonderful thing that the Camel people are doing. Bing, would you like to tell them about it?
By all means. In a world, that's a little prone to forget so easily, the makers of Camel cigarettes aren't forgetting. Every week they send a parcel of free Camels to servicemen's hospitals from coast to coast. This week the Camels go to the Veterans Hospital at Oteen, North Carolina, and to the U.S. Army Station Hospital right here in California at Stoneman. Also to the U.S. Naval Hospital at Jacksonville, Florida, and the U.S. Marine Hospital at New Orleans. And if you veterans down there at the Kennedy Veterans Hospital in Memphis are listening in right now on your Philco, what are they? How did that fit? Well, somebody's been taking care of me here in the crew. Mm-hmm. You'll be glad to know that you're going to get some of those free Camels, too.
According to a nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
Doctors practicing in every field of medicine. Doctors living in every state of the Union. 113,597 doctors were questioned by 3 leading independent research organizations. What cigarette do you smoke, doctor, was asked. The brand named most was Camel. C-A-M-E-L-S. In our coming Monday evening broadcast of Camel Cigarettes Screen Guild Players, you will hear the greatest stars in pictures. Among them, Joan Fontaine, Jimmy Stewart, Barbara Stanwyck, Danny Kaye, Walter Pigeon. And for next Monday, we have a real surprise for you. Camel Cigarettes will present the Screen Guild Players in the hilarious comedy, My Favorite Brunette. And it will star Bob Hope and Dorothy L'Amour. Be sure to listen.
More pipes, both Prince Albert than any other tobacco. Yes, the rich, full flavors Prince Albert. Prince Albert's mellow mildness make it a steady favorite. Prince Albert is especially made for smoking pleasure. Trim cut to burn slow, smoke cool. PA's Choice Tobacco is specially treated to ensure against tongue bite. Just try a pipeful of Prince Albert.
See if you, too, don't prefer it to any other brand. Tonight's Screen Guild play was directed by Bill Lawrence and adapted for radio by Harry Conlon. The music was arranged and conducted by Wilbur Hatch. The Bells of St. Mary's, which was directed by Leo McCary, was presented through the courtesy of Rainbow Productions, who are currently making Good Sam, starring Gary Cooper and Ann Sheridan, also directed by Leo McCary. Camel Cigarettes bring you the Vaughn Monroe Show every Saturday night on these same CBS stations. This is Michael Roy in Hollywood wishing you good night for Camel Cigarettes. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
The Mutual Broadcasting System presents The Family Theater, starring Miss Ethel Barrymore, the Mitchell Boy Choir, and the music of Meredith Wilson. Charles Boyer is your host.
More things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of. Good evening. This is Charles Boyer. As your host for this evening, I should tell you something about family theater and a story you will hear tonight. Therefore, if I may, I would like to remind you that family theater is dedicated to your family, with the hope that your family would always be happy. As you probably know, many of us in all phases of the entertainment industry join with so many of you in the sincere belief that a happy family is a family that acknowledges God and seeks His help. To put it another way, a family that prays together stays together. Now, about tonight's story. There is very little that can be added to its own great words. It is the Passion, Death, and Resurrection, adapted especially for radio by John Slott and narrated by Miss Ethel Barrymore. In these days of a slow dawning toward a new world of peace, we need the old words to guide us. And what greater words can we thus express for this festival day than the words of the Passion, Death, and Resurrection?
Came to pass, when Jesus had ended all these words, he said to his disciples, "You know that after 2 days shall be the Pasch, and the Son of Man shall be delivered up to be crucified." Then were gathered together the chief priests and ancients of the people into the court of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas. And they consulted together that by subtlety they might apprehend Jesus and put him to death. But they said not on the festival day, lest perhaps there should be tumult among the people. When Jesus was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, there came to him a woman having an alabaster box of precious ointment, and poured it on his head as he was at table. And the disciples, seeing it, had indignation, saying, "To what purpose is this waste? For this might have been sold for much and given to the poor." And Jesus, knowing it, said to them, "Why do you trouble this woman? For she hath wrought a good work upon me. For the poor you have always with you, but me you have not always. For she, in pouring this ointment upon my body, hath done it for my burial. And I say to you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, that also which she hath done shall be told for a memory of her." Then went one of the 12, who was called Judas Iscariot, to the chief priests, and said to them, "What will you give me, and I will deliver him unto you?" But they appointed him 30 pieces of silver, and from thenceforth he sought opportunity to betray him. And on the first day of their Azims, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, "Where wilt that we prepare for thee to eat the Pasch?" But Jesus said, "Go ye into the city to a certain man, and say to him, The Master saith, My time is near at hand. With thee I make the Pasch with my disciples." And the disciples did as Jesus appointed to them, and they prepared the Pasch. But when it was evening, he sat down with his 12 disciples. And whilst they were eating, he said, "And I say to you that one of you is about to betray me." And they, being very troubled, began every one to say, "Is it I, Lord?" But he answering said, "He that dippeth his hand with me in the dish, he shall betray me. The Son of Man indeed goeth as it is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man shall be betrayed. It were better for him if that man had not been born." And Judas that betrayed him answering said, "Is it I, Rabbi?" He saith to him, "Thou hast said it." And whilst they were at supper, Jesus took bread and blessed and broke, and gave to his disciples and said, "Take ye and eat. This is my body." And taking the chalice, he gave thanks and gave to them, saying, "Drink ye all of this, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which shall be shed for many unto remissions of sins." And I say to you, I will not drink from henceforth of this fruit of the vine, until that day when I shall drink it with you new in the kingdom of my Father. And to him being said, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Jesus said to Peter, "And I say to thee that in this night before the cock crow, thou wilt deny me thrice." Peter saith to him, "Yea, though I should die with thee, I will not deny thee." And in like manner said all the disciples. Then Jesus came with them into a country place which is called Gethsemane. And he said to his disciples, "Sit you here till I go yonder and pray." And taking with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, he began to grow sorrowful and to be sad. Then he saith to them, "My soul is sorrowful even unto death. Stay you here and watch with me." And going a little further, he fell upon his face, praying and saying, "My Father, if it be possible, let this chalice pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. And he cometh to his disciples, and findeth them asleep. And he saith to Peter, What? Could you not watch 1 hour with me? Watch ye, and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh weak. Again the second time he went and prayed, saying, My Father, if this chalice may not pass away, but I must drink it, thy will be done. And he cometh again and findeth them sleeping, for their eyes are heavy. And leaving them he went again, and he prayed the third time, saying the self-same word. Then he cometh to his disciples, and saith to them, Sleep ye now, and take your rest. Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man shall be betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Behold, he is at hand that will betray me. And as he yet spoke, behold, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great multitude with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests and the ancients of the people. And he that betrayed him gave them a sign, saying, Whomsoever I shall kiss, that is he, hold him fast. And forthwith coming to Jesus, he said, Hail, Rabbi, and he kissed him. And Jesus said to him, Friend, whereto art thou come? Then they came up and laid hands on Jesus and held him. And behold, one of them that were with Jesus, stretching forth his hand, drew out his sword, and striking the servant of the high priest, cut off his ear. Then Jesus saith to him, Put up again the sword into its place, for all that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Thinkest thou I cannot ask my Father, and he will give me presently more than 12 legions of angels? How then shall the Scriptures be fulfilled, that so it must be done? In that same hour Jesus said to the multitudes, You are come out, as it were, to a robber, with swords and clubs to apprehend me. I sat daily with you teaching in the temple. You laid not hands on me. Now all this was done, that the Scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then the disciples, all leaving him, fled. But they, holding Jesus, led him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the ancients were assembled. And the chief priests and the whole council sought false witness against Jesus, that they might put him to death. And they found not, whereas many false witnesses had come in. And last of all, there came 2 false witnesses. And they said, This man said, I am able to destroy the temple of God, and after 3 days to rebuild it. And the high priest, rising up, said to him, Answerest thou nothing of the things which these witness against thee? But Jesus held his peace, and the high priest said to him, I abjure thee by the living God that thou tellest if thou be the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus saith to him, Thou hast said it. Nevertheless I say to you, Hereafter you shall see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of the power of God and coming in the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest rent his garments, saying, He hath blasphemed. What further need have we of witnesses? Behold, now you have heard the blasphemy. What think you? But they answering said, He is guilty of death. But Peter sat without in the court, and there came to him a servant maid, saying, Thou also wast with Jesus the Galilean. But he denied before them all, saying, I know not what thou sayest. And as he went out of the gate, another maid saw him, and she saith to them that were there, This man also was with Jesus of Nazareth. And again he denied it with an oath, I know not the man. And after a little while they came that stood by and said to Peter, Surely thou also art one of them, for even thy speech doth discover thee. Then he began to curse and to swear that he knew not the man. And immediately the cock crew. And Peter remembered the word of Jesus which he had said, Before the cock crow thou wilt deny me thrice. And going forth he wept bitterly. When morning was come, all the chief priests and ancients of the people took counsel against Jesus, that they might put him to death. And they brought him bound and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor. Then Judas, who betrayed him, seeing that he was condemned, repenting himself, brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and ancients, saying, I have sinned in betraying innocent blood. But they said, What is that to us? Look thou to it. And casting down the pieces of silver in the temple, he departed and went and hanged himself. But the chief priests, having taken the pieces of silver, said, It is not lawful to put them into the corbona, because it is the price of blood. And after they had counseled together, they bought with them the potter's field, to be a burying place for strangers. For this cause that field was called Haseldana, that is, the field of blood, even to this day. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him that was prized, whom they prized of the children of Israel. And they gave them unto the potter's field, as the Lord appointed me. Now upon the solemn day the governor was accustomed to release to the people one prisoner. Pilate saith to them, What shall I do then with Jesus that is called Christ? And they all said, Let him be crucified. The governor said to them, Why, what evil hath he done? But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified. And Pilate, seeing that he prevailed nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, taking water, washed his hands before the people, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just man. Look you to it. people answering said, His blood be upon us and upon our children. Then having scourged Jesus, he delivered them unto them to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor, taking Jesus into the hall, gathered together unto him the whole band, and stripping him, they put a scarlet cloak about him, and plaiting a crown of thorns, they put it upon his head, and a reed in his right hand, and bowing the knee before him, they mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! And spitting upon him, they took the reed and struck his head. And after they had mocked him, they took off the cloak from him and put on his own garments, and led him away to crucify him. And going out, they found a man of Cyrene, named Simon. Him they forced to take up his cross. And they came to the place that is called Golgotha, which is the place of Calvary. And they gave him wine to drink mingled with gall. And when he tasted it, he would not drink. And after they had crucified him, they divided his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, They divided my garments among them, and upon my vesture they cast lots, and they sat and watched him. And they put over his head his cause, written, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Crucified with him 2 thieves, one on the right hand and one on the left. And they that passed by blasphemed him, wagging their heads, saying, Vah, thou that destroyest the temple of God, and in 3 days dost rebuild it, save thy own self. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. In like manner also the chief priests with the scribes and ancients, mocking, said, He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God, let him now deliver him, if he will have him, for he said, I am the Son of God. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over the whole earth, until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani? My God, why hast thou forsaken me? And some that stood there and heard said, This man calleth Elias. And immediately one of them running took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink. And the other said, Let be, let us see whether Elias will come to deliver him. And Jesus again, crying with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. The veil of the temple was rent in 2 from top even to the bottom, and the earth quaked and the rocks were rent, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints that had slept arose, and coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they came into the holy city and appeared to many. Now the centurion and they that were with him, watching Jesus, having seen the earthquake and the things that were done, were sore afraid, saying, Indeed, this was the Son of God. the Sabbath, when it began to dawn towards the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven, and coming rolled back the stone and sat upon it. And his countenance was a lightning, and his raiment as snow. And the angel answering said to the women, Fear not you, for I know that you seek Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen, as he said. Come and see the place where the Lord was laid. And the 11 disciples went into Galilee unto the mountain where Jesus had appointed them. And seeing him they adored, but some doubted. And Jesus coming spoke to them, saying, All power is given to me in heaven and in earth. Go therefore, teach ye all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you all days, even to the end of the world.
This is Charles Boyer again. I'm sure you were just as moved as I was with Miss Barrymore's reading from the New Testament. The story you heard tonight is a true story, hundreds of years old. It's a story that will never die so long as someone lives to read it or to tell it. And that story is especially wonderful for this program, Family Theater, because it is a story of sacrifice. And after all, the story of your family, of any good family, is a story of sacrifice, is it not? What mother has not given up so much for her children? What father has not sacrificed for his wife and family? Keeping a family together, whether that family is just two people, a husband and a wife, or a big family with many children, keeping that family together and happy demands continual sacrifice on your part. Sometimes the things you must do and the things you must do without are almost too much to bear. But you need never despair, because you can do anything with help. And you can always get the most wonderful, most powerful help in all the world, just by asking for it. Ask God for his help. His help is so easy to get. Just say a prayer, and say that prayer together with your family. A family that prays together stays together. So tonight and every night, thank God for what you have and ask him for what you need. And if you have never turned to God before and you turn to him now, this will indeed be a joyful and happy Easter for you and your family. Before saying good night, I want to express our thanks to all of you who have helped make this program possible. A special word of praise to John Slott for his adaptation, and to Bob Mitchell for directing the choir. Thanks also to Mel Williamson for directing our play tonight, and to our producer, Bob Longnecker. Next week, our stars on the Family Theater will be James Craig and Jane Wyatt, with John Charles Thomas as your host. Good night.
This series of the Family Theater broadcast is made possible by the thousands of you who felt the need for this kind of program, by the Mutual Network, which has responded to this need, and by the actors and technicians in the motion picture and radio industries who have volunteered their services to fulfill it. Tony Lafrano speaking. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
The greatest story ever told. This afternoon we present The Betrayal and the Crucifixion, the first of two Easter season dramas based on events in the greatest life ever lived. Our scene, Jerusalem. Great city standing proudly upon the crest of a mountain and crowded this day with worshipers from all parts of Judea and Galilee who have come to pray at the temple and to celebrate the Passover. But by the city gate the crowd is greatest, for many have come to see the entry of one of whom they have heard strange and wondrous tales. And now someone spies him as he rides toward the city gate upon the back of a donkey, and a great cry goes up. And from the cheering crowd suddenly are produced palm branches, and they are strewn in his path. Yet there are many who watch not from the streets, but from the high and secluded terraces and parapets of stately buildings and palaces. From one terrace watches a man named Joseph, who is of the place called Arimathea, and beside him stands his wife.
Joseph, how they crowd round him and strew his path with palm leaves and flowers.
Yes, my dear. It's an amazing thing to behold.
They must love him so.
They do. And yet, it's been truly said that no one can be loved by some without stirring jealousy in the hearts of others.
What a strange thing to say at such a time.
My dear, there will be those who will watch and ponder about this thing we see below us now. Yes, there will be those.
And upon the parapet of another princely palace stand two men, one named Caiaphas and another named Annas, priests both of them, and both men concerned by the spectacle they witness.
Well, Annas, do you see? Do you hear? Palm leaves and hosannas.
Yes, Caiaphas, but it will pass.
Will it? Have you ever seen such a reception for anyone in your lifetime?
No.
So something must be done.
Done? What? Why?
Fool! He has captured the people. If they follow him, what becomes of us? What is a high priest without followers?
True, but what can we do, Caiaphas?
Well, something must be done. Look at them. Listen to them. Well, this will change. It must change. And I think I know how. So your name is Judas. Tell me, how long have you known him?
Why, it doesn't matter.
Don't tremble so, Judas. You're safe here. No one will ever know it was you. Now tell me how long.
If you persist in asking questions, Caiaphas, I won't do it. I'll leave.
Well, I suppose one shouldn't look for noble qualities in an informer.
You shouldn't have said that.
No, don't go. It was a badly chosen word. Now then, where will we find him?
The garden. Gethsemane. Late at night. But all his disciples will be there.
Then how will we know which one is he?
I've thought about that, too. It must be done in a manner that won't give me away.
And that would be?
The kiss of greeting. What could be more usual?
Then the one you kiss, we take.
Yes, sir.
Very good. We'll be there. Now, how much?
I don't know.
I asked how much.
I don't have time to bargain. I have to get back and join the others for the feast.
Well, then is 30 pieces fair?
I don't know.
What do you usually get?
Now, see here.
Yes?
All right. 30.
I was prepared for that. You'll find the 30 pieces in this pouch. Now, Judas, get on to your feast.
Peter, did you notice?
What, John? You mean how calm and peaceful the master seems?
And look at Judas, the last to enter. He glances about as though he were afraid of something.
The master is the one who should be afraid. His hour is coming as he foretold it to us, yet he's said nothing. He's done nothing.
Wait, Peter. He's reaching for a basin.
Master, here. Here's the basin and a pitcher of water. If you desire to wash, Lord, allow me to help.
Peter, look.
Master, no. You kneeling at my feet. Oh, no, it cannot be. I should kneel at your feet. Master, you wash my feet. It's I who should wash yours.
What I do, you know not, but you shall know hereafter.
Please, Lord, you shall never wash the feet of one so undeserving as I.
If I wash you not, you have no part of me.
Then, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. Lord,
has anyone ever shown greater humility?
Now he's beginning to wash the feet of the others also.
If I, then, your Lord and Master, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. Verily, I say unto you, the servant is not greater than the master.
It is somehow the beginning of the end, John.
Yes. As though the washing of our feet were the first step toward what will end as he prophesied to us only 2 short days ago.
If he would say a word or give a sign, I'd offer my life in his place. I would.
No one can offer his life in place of the Master.
Look, he's saying a prayer over the bread now.
And he breaks it into little pieces.
Do you see how many pieces?
9, 10, 11, 12.
Means one for each of us. Come, we must pass them down the table to the others.
This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me.
But, Master...
Eat, Peter. The chalice of wine, Master, is that what you reach for?
I'll fill it, Master.
He's blessed it, Peter. Now take it. Pass it for each man to drink.
Yes, John.
This is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you. Now I say unto you, one of you which eateth with me shall betray me. Is it I, Lord?
Is it I, Lord?
Is it I, Lord? Is it I, Lord?
Is it I, Lord?
Is it I, Lord? Is it I, Lord? Is it I, Lord? Is it I, Lord?
He that dippeth his hand with me in the dish, the same shall he betray me.
Master, is it I?
Thou hast said. That which you do quickly.
I'm going to stop him, John.
If the master had wanted him stopped, wouldn't he have said so?
But you heard it just as I did. What's the matter with all of you? Will you let that traitor go? Will you let him betray the master? Well, I won't. If it costs me my life, I'm going after Judas. I'll stop him. It seems I'm the only one who's brave enough.
Wait, Peter. The master would speak to us.
You will all be offended this night because of me.
No, master. Not I.
For it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered.
No, master, no. If the others be offended because of you, I will not. Oh, no, not Simon Peter. I'd go to prison with you. I'd even go to death with you. Believe me, master.
I say unto you, this day, even in this night, before the cock crows twice, you shall deny me 3 times.
No, Lord. If I should die with you, I would still not deny you. Not in any way. Not in any way. How many times have we been here in this Garden of Gethsemane, John?
It's one of his favorite places.
Look. The way he kneels off there, all by himself. To know the fate that's facing him and yet not try to escape it.
He wouldn't be the one we think he is if he were to try to escape.
But to die in that way, surely he must know what suffering that means. What a bitter cup it is to drink.
That's why he prays, as he does now.
Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. Simon, sleepest thou?
What? Master. Oh, Master, forgive me. I had fallen asleep.
Could ye not watch with me 1 hour?
Oh, Master, forgive me. John. What? James. Wake. Wake up, all of you.
Peter, what happened? Was I asleep, Peter?
We were all asleep.
Rise. Behold, he is at hand that doth betray me.
Where, Master? I don't see anyone or hear any. Wait. John, do you hear? Marching men. Torches. The clank of armor. Soldiers. Master, there may still be time to save yourself. Come with us.
He won't move, Peter.
Then I shall protect him. I have my sword.
Oh! Peter, can you see? Can you make out any faces in the flickering torchlight?
Soldiers, as I thought.
Yes, but that one there. He wears no uniform.
Look. He comes toward us now. Judas.
Go on. Which one is he?
Friend, wherefore are you come?
Hail, Master. I greet you with a kiss.
The one he kissed, he's that one.
Wait. First man to touch him will feel the cut of this sword.
No.
Peter, put up again thy sword into his place. For all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword.
But, Master, shall I stand by helpless? Is there nothing I can do?
The one that threw this kiss around him. Lead him off.
Master! Master.
You there. What are you doing here at the palace of Caiaphas at this hour of the night?
Am I not allowed here? Is it so secret?
I'm the sentry on duty here. It's my business to ask who you are.
I'm a poor man who's come in out of the cold of the night air.
Oh, then you can draw up a little closer to the fire.
Thank you. What goes on in there?
Trial.
Who's being tried?
That one they call the Master.
What do they say about him?
Mostly they talk about blasphemy.
He's never blasphemed.
Oh, no? How do you know so much about him? Are you one of his followers, perhaps?
No, I don't even know him.
Then you'd be wise to be quiet.
Yes, sir. Look, the door is opening.
You there, woman. Well, what's going on in there now?
They've just begun to question the master himself.
What did they say to him? What did he answer?
Are you a friend of his? I think I've seen you with him, haven't I?
Me? No, woman, I don't even know him. That sound.
First sound of morning. What are you so alarmed about, friend?
Nothing. There's nothing to be alarmed about. I wonder how it's going in there. I wonder.
I can find out by opening the door. But be quiet, both of you. Caiaphas is questioning him now. Why don't you answer the witnesses? What are the things they've said against you? I adjure you by the living God to tell us. Are you the Christ, the Son of God?
Thou hast said. Nevertheless, I say unto you, hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven.
Did you hear that? Yeah, we need no more witnesses. You've all heard his blasphemy. He's guilty.
Listen, did you hear? Guilty. They said guilty.
Away from that door. I told you to be quiet. Don't you know you could have got me into trouble shouting that way? They might have heard you in there.
I don't care. They said he was guilty. Guilty.
Yes, we heard. But why are you so concerned?
I don't know what you're talking about.
There's something strange about you. You must know him. You must be a friend of his.
If you are, they'll be wanting you inside, too, now that he's guilty.
No, wait. I don't know what you're talking about. Either of you. Leave me alone. I don't know him. I never did know him. There. You see? You forced me to say it. He said I would. You forced me to. You did. You did.
What's the matter with that man?
He ran off, crying. A big grown man crying. I don't understand. But the one inside, what will they do with him?
Do with him? He'll be on his way to Pontius Pilate now. Well, Caiaphas, why have you wakened me so early? If it wasn't important, Pilate, I wouldn't have had you roused.
Perhaps it's just as well. There was no sleep for me anyhow. My wife moaning and tossing from a bad dream.
Well, now, what do you want? There is a man here upon whom the sentence of death must be passed.
Death? What's he done?
Blasphemed.
Blasphemed? Well, then it's no affair of mine.
Even if he claims to be king here.
There's only one king. Caesar is his name. Oh, this may be serious. We'll have him in. We'll find out about this. Sentry, bring the prisoner in.
In here.
Well, now, tell me. Are you king here? Well?
My kingdom is not of this world.
Indeed. One who talks of kingdoms could claim to be a king, after all. Well, do you?
Thou sayest that I am a king. To this end was I born into the world, that I should bear witness unto the truth.
Witness unto the truth? What is truth? Why don't you answer me? Don't you know that I have the power to have you crucified?
You could have no power at all against me, except it were given you from above.
Indeed. Sentry, take him out of here.
This way, King.
Strange man. And what is your decision about him, this pretender to thrones? It's true, he talked of his kingdom.
Pilate.
Claudia, what are you doing here?
Pilate, I heard you talk to him.
Please, my dear, this is no matter for you to worry about.
Have nothing to do with that just man. I have dreamed about him. My dreams trouble me. Trouble me.
So that's why you tossed and moaned so in your sleep. Pilate, this is no time for concern with dreams. This is a time for realities. What are you going to do about him?
Pilate, please, have nothing to do with him.
Remember, Pilate, word of this will reach Rome. I see no fault in him. Yet, word of a king reaching Rome. Wait, I know. There's a way out. The custom to release one prisoner to the people at holiday time. I shall offer this man and one other. Let the crowd make the choice. But let it be taken out of my hands. Well, Sentry, where are the prisoners?
Being brought out, Excellency.
The one who calls himself a king. Was he scourged as I ordered?
Yes, Excellency, and even more. Call himself a king, will he? Well, we made a king out of him. We gave him a robe and a crown, too. Play the king before Roman soldiers, will he?
Crown?
Of thorns, Excellency. And it fits pretty close around his head. Not the most comfortable crown in the world, eh?
Is that him now?
Yes, Excellency.
I didn't know him with that purple robe.
Purple fit for a king, Excellency.
Bring him forth. And the other one, too.
Barabbas?
Yes, both of them. Bring them here before the crowd.
Yes, Excellency.
Sentry, silence the crowd.
Silence! Silence! The representative of Rome wishes to be heard.
In accordance with custom, I shall this day release to you one prisoner. 2 men shall be presented to you. One shall go free, the other shall die. Sentry, present the 2 prisoners. Here are the 2. This one is Barabbas, a robber. He has even killed. And this one is called Jesus of Nazareth. He claims to be king here. Well, now, which of these 2 prisoners shall I give you to be set free? Sentry, you've heard the choice. Turn Barabbas free.
And this one, Excellency?
And this one? Then he shall carry his own cross to Calvary.
Yes, sir.
And one thing more. Bring me a pitcher of water.
Yes, Excellency. A pitcher of water for His Excellency. Yes, sir.
I'll pour it over my hand. I hands of the blood of this just man. Now carry out the order.
Yes, Excellency.
Bring out the cross. Now place it on his back. And now send him on his way down the road to Calvary.
He hangs between two thieves, John. Did I follow him all the way from Magdala to see this agony?
And in the sight of his mother.
If only we could comfort her.
How can anyone comfort her now that a sword has pierced her soul?
Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Amen, I say to thee, this day shalt thou be with me in paradise. Woman, behold thy mother. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? I thirst. It is finished. Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit.
Lipton Tea and Lipton Soup present Inner Sanctum Mysteries. Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum. This is Raymond, your host, at the squeaking door. Come in, won't you? Well, you're shivering. Cold? Oh. Well, don't let it throw you. Just remember that many are cold, but few are frozen. Well, our story, to be different tonight, is about murder. Murder and a clock. So, if you've got a little time to kill, let's do it now, huh?
Why, Mr. Raymond, nobody can really kill time.
Well, maybe not, but you certainly can frighten it. Didn't you ever hear of an alarmed clock?
Mr. Raymond, someday you're going to choke on one of those puns.
And won't that be nice, Mary? Then you can revive me with guess what, Lipton tea.
Oh, dear. Must this go on week after week? Why must I talk to the only person in the world who doesn't know the proper uses of Lipton tea?
Oh, don't say that.
It isn't used to revive people. At least not in the way you mean it. Of course, lots of folks do find that Lipton's makes the day seem brighter. Yes, it sort of helps them through their housework to sit down now and then between meals, as well as at dinner and supper, and enjoy a cup of Lipton tea. And the reason why Lipton's is so satisfying is because of that one little word, brisk. B-R-I-S-K. Tea experts say that Lipton's has a brisk flavor, which means that it always tastes tangy and bracing. It's never flat or wishy-washy. So folks ask for Lipton tea at your grocer's. You just don't know how good tea can be till you've tried Lipton's.
Yes, and when you leave the grocer, step next door to the clockmaker's shop and ask him for the Judas Clock. If he doesn't have it on hand, just ask him to give you the works. Yes, the title of tonight's story is The Judas Clock. It's an original radio play by that old clock watcher, Christopher Mayo. Our star is Barry Kroger, who plays the role of Sebastian Packer.
I'm told you're an expert clock repairman, Mr.
Packer, madam. Yes, I suppose I am.
Well, I have a clock. Rather, my husband has, and it hasn't run for years. Would you have a look at it?
Well, can't you bring it in?
Oh, heavens, no. It weighs 500 pounds.
Oh.
One of those huge marble things. Italian Renaissance, I'd say.
Marble? Italian? Well, can you describe it further?
Well, it's rather unusual. Black marble. Heavily carved with biblical characters. The ivory face has a beautifully etched scene on it. But it's a gruesome one.
Gruesome? What kind of a scene?
It's a picture of a man hanging from a tree.
Judas!
His face is positively ghastly.
The Judas Clock. I knew without seeing it why the clock wouldn't run. It had been built in Italy for a prince of the House of Savoy in 1598. He conceived the idea when he discovered that his family's treasures included the 30 pieces of silver of Judas Iscariot. The clock was made to run only when the 30 silver coins of Judas were in place in the clock's hollow weights. 15 in each weight. And the coins had been in my possession since the day of my father's death. Somewhere inside me, that clock still beats its deep-throated song, and I have but to close my eyes to hear again my father's voice.
It's an evil clock, son, as evil as Satan himself, and it's cursed. There is a legend that every man who has owned it has died a violent and bloody death.
Well, Mr. Packer, can you fix it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was daydreaming. Well, yes. Does Mr.
Arnold.
Arnold. Does Mr. Arnold know that you're having the clock repaired?
No. We've only been married a few weeks, and I'd like to have it working when he comes back to town tomorrow. Sort of a surprise.
Yes, I see. Well, I'll be there in half an hour, Mrs. Arnold. So last night, I went to the Arnold house and found the Judas Clock again. I started to work. Foghorns from the East River sounded much as I remembered they did in London. And suddenly, I was back there on a fateful day about a fortnight after the clock had been uncrated by my father. I was in the shop when the man from Scotland Yard stepped in. He walked straight to the clock and stared at it.
Good afternoon, sir. Does the clock interest you?
Very much. When did you acquire it?
A cousin bought it at an auction in Italy, and I'm displaying it for sale and consignment.
My name's Pettibone, Scotland Yard. I've been looking for this clock for a month. It was stolen in Italy.
Stolen?
Yes, Mr. Packer. And worse, murder was done. Afraid you're involved in a bit of something here.
Murder?
I'm taking possession of the clock in the name of the Crown.
I shall never forget the look of horror on the detective's face a moment later. He laid his hand on the clock's carving, and it froze there, while his face drained white and his eyes bulged. He opened and closed his mouth soundlessly and crumpled to the floor with his hands to his throat. He was still and twisted and very dead. Mr. Pettibone had died of a heart attack the moment he took possession of the clock. I helped Father drag him into the stockroom. Father wanted time to think, so I went to my room. I dozed off only to wake hours later at the sound of angry voices.
Well, Cousin Andrew, you've done me a fine turn, haven't you?
I've told you I didn't mean to kill the old girl. It was an accident. Don't talk so loud. Boy will hear us.
You killed her as soon as you learned she'd made out a will in your favor. Then when you thought it was safe, you sold all her furnishings and sent the clock to me to sell.
Very well, I did. You're in it to the ears.
I'll go to the police.
Oh, and how will you explain poor, stiff Mr. Pettibone lying in your stockroom all this while? Besides, Timothy, there's nothing to fear now Pettibone's gone. He was the only one who suspected me. Now, You're the only one who knows.
I'll crate this cursed black monster tomorrow, and you leave with it.
And will you also crate Mr. Pettibone?
I
have a plan. Here, sit down in this chair, right here. I'll show you how we can solve the whole thing.
My young heart beat with a wild dread as I listened. I could only see Cousin Andy's back, but I could see Father seated dejectedly in the chair near the Judas clock, his head in his hands. It was midnight. All the clocks in the shop began striking the hour, and louder than all the rest was the chime of the evil clock. If only then I had known, I might have done something, but the slow strokes beat on. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And before my horrified eyes, the heavy marble piece leaned slowly from the wall and crashed across my father's back. And Cousin Andy stood facing my father as the clock crushed his frail form and choked him. He made pitiful little sounds, his eyes begging for life. And the murderer just stood, his back to me, and watched.
Thundering sinners, you die hard.
Cousin Andy ran from the shop crying for help. He would claim an accident. I raced into the shop. My father was dead. I choked back my tears, and I closed the poor, staring eyes. I took the coins of Judas from the weights of the clock and ran from the shop, the blood-stained pieces jangling merrily in my pocket. Armed with the notion that the coins were of value, and the definite notion that I must eat, I approached one of the many dingy little curio shops in the Limehouse district. I stepped through the fog toward a shop where a dim light burned in the rear. Every inch of wall and ceiling was hung with curios, old armor, swords, and shields. I would have run out, but a weazened, apish man barked at me from the rear.
Well, what you want?
I have something to sell.
What you got?
I have the 30 pieces of silver that belong to Judas Iscariot.
I'll twist this scrawny neck off you. Pulling me leg, eh?
Oh, no, sir, I'm not pulling your leg, sir. Here they are.
Blimey. Silver, right enough. Where'd you cop them?
Oh, I didn't steal them, sir. They belong to my father.
A likely tale, that.
Will you buy them?
Buy him, he says. Buy him. Get out of here before I cause a bobby, you scamp. Get out!
Oh, no, give me my coins.
Get out or I'll come about and fetch you a sound one.
The ugly brute came toward me. He held my coins clutched in a tight, hairy fist. Before I could move, he had struck me. And I hit the wall with a clatter. And then it happened again. For the second time that night, the curse of the Judas clock struck. As I hit the wall, my eye caught a metallic glint above, and a heavy object dropped from the ceiling. The man was about to strike me again when the object struck his head. And remained part of him. He fell. His skull split in two by a hangman's axe. I clamped my mouth on a cry and pried the man's fist open. The fresh blood made it hard, but I recovered the coins, and I stumbled in panic through the shop and out into the night. And the fog of London never swallowed a more frightened and lonely boy.
That nasty fog swallowing a little boy. That reminds me of a little nursery rhyme. Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 2. Look out, it might strike you.
Heavens, I'm glad I don't own that terrible clock.
Oh, don't say that, Mary. Just think if you had the Judas clock, then time wouldn't hang heavily on you. No, it would fall on you.
Well, if it did fall and you rescued me, wouldn't that make you a time saver?
Well, split my sides with an axe if Mary didn't make with a joke.
Well, a very little one, Mr. Raymond.
That's true.
But seriously, I do have something to say about a time saver. And I'm thinking about Lipton tea. You know, Lipton's is such a handy beverage. It takes so little time to prepare, and it's always so welcome. Yes, its famous brisk flavor makes it enjoyable, not just at your own meal times, but between meals and whenever folks drop in for a visit. That's why it's a good idea to buy Lipton's in the larger, more economical size packages. That's right. The larger packages are much thriftier. So you see, it's wise to keep on hand a really good supply of that brisk-flavored Lipton tea.
Oh, sure, it'll come in handy to warm up the chills you get from these inner sanctum stories. And, brother, you're going to shiver plenty with Barry Kroger as Sebastian Packer as this story goes on about the Judas Clock.
I hadn't touched those horrible coins of Judas Iscariot since the day the storekeeper was killed. By now, I half believed the legend that death followed them. I began to feel that the only way I could escape their curse was to find the Judas Clock and put the coins back in its weights where they belonged. One day, as I read the notices in the Times, my heart skipped a beat. It said, auction of clocks. At Chopin Place, auction room, Saturday at 7. Rare items, one of them fine Italian Renaissance piece of black marble. Rare treat for collectors. Come early.
Interested in something, young man?
Oh, why, yes. Well, that is nothing in particular. Just looking at these splendid pieces. I thought I might stay for the auction.
Look about. Auction won't start for a bit yet.
I sauntered toward the black clock. My hand had scooped all the coins from my pocket. I would have to work fast and noiselessly. My sweating fingers began to unscrew the small cover on one of the weights. I would soon have the coins put back.
As I thought. No. What have you got in your hand there? Let's have a look.
No, nothing at all. I was just examining.
Examining my foot? You've got a flock of coins there. You must have taken them from somewhere in the clock. Here. No, give them to me.
Sometimes when things happen quickly, the mind retains details that would otherwise escape notice. As the men and I struggled, I dropped the clock's weight. It hit a short, round bit of metal directly below it. The man had a vice-like grip on my clenched hand.
Blasted little wretch. No! I'll wrench your hand off for you.
I heard a whirring sound within the clock, and before my horrified eyes, the supporting panel at the front of the clock's base slowly lifted on hinges. The clock was off balance and began to fall forward. I screamed a warning. Look out! The auction man was dead, mashed to a pulp of bone and blood beneath the clock, as my father had been. I ran to the door and out into the street. I was right back where I'd started. Only now I knew that my father had been murdered by Cousin Andy. I walked for miles, trying to pull myself together. I wandered aimlessly, or so I thought. But fate had traced my path before me, because I was startled to find myself staring into the shop window of a rare coin dealer named Megaroyd. I walked into the shop. Mr. Megaroyd was a nice little man. He smiled a bit quizzically at my firm belief that I possessed the betrayal coins of Judas. I poured them onto his counter.
Oh, I say, you could be right, you know. Oh, these are the right era. I say, suppose they are. Let me put a glass to them.
Mr. Megaroyd, would they be worth a great deal, even if they weren't the...
Well, let me see. Yes, gracious, yes, they should be worth a great deal as collector's items alone.
Well, Mr. Megaroyd, I feel that there's something I should tell you about these pieces. They...
Yes?
Oh, it's not important.
Oh, well, now, just a moment. I have a catalogue on this here in my show window. I'll fidget just a jiffy.
The coins lay on the counter. I watched Mr. Megaroyd run down the aisle. As he approached the display window, his foot caught in an electric wire which lay across the floor. The lights went out, and I saw him pitch forward and... Ah! Mr. Megaroyd! Mr. Megaroyd! The street light peered through the broken plate glass and played across a grotesquely sprawled form in the show window. I needed no more light than there was to see what had happened. The upper half of the heavy plate had broken and dropped flat against the solid lower half. There was no need to ask how he was. No guillotine could have done a neater job. Mr. Megaloid had no head.
Who else but death can own the coins of Judas?
Tonight, I shall find out if Mr. Arnold is Cousin Andrew. If he is, I shall feel no remorse in killing him tonight. Because while working to repair the Judas Clock last night, I discovered how my father's accidental death had been well-conceived, diabolic murder. When the right-hand weight reached the floor of the clock on the 12th stroke of midnight, it tripped a trigger which collapsed the base of the clock and caused it to fall forward. My father had died on the 12th stroke of midnight.
Have you finished, Mr. Packer?
No, Mrs. Arnold. I shall have to come back tomorrow night. What time do you expect Mr. Arnold tomorrow?
About 11, I'd say. Will you be finished by then?
Well, I think so. I'll have to take these weights to the shop with me, though. Something has to be added to them.
Well, of course, Mr. Packer. Mr. Arnold will be so surprised to see the clock running, won't he?
He'll be very surprised, Mrs. Arnold. I've put the coins in their place within the weights. Not 15 in each weight, but 15 in one and 10 in the other. The other 5 coins are in my pocket. In another pocket, I have a small 38, although I don't plan to use it. 8 o'clock, and I have a 30-year-old date to keep.
Good evening.
Oh.
Mr. Packer?
Yes, but I'm closing now.
I see you are. My name is Arnold. Just came in from Chicago. Sorry to spoil your little surprise. Or my wife's, rather.
You surprised her instead?
Yes. She had to confess. I wanted to go out, so she had to tell me about engaging you to repair the Judas Clock.
You don't want it repaired?
By all means, I insist. It's a splendid idea. But what I came for, really, was to tell you that you and I have much to talk about.
Oh, do we?
Yes. But look, close your place and bring along whatever you need to fix the clock, and we'll talk about it at my place.
I'm all set. Let's go.
Think you'll have it fixed in time to strike midnight?
Oh, yes. Yes, it will strike at midnight. Right. Well, there we are, Mr. Arnold. Weights are in place. Let's see. It's exactly 10 minutes before midnight. Set the hands. And just a little shove on the pendulum. So. And the Judas clock ticks again.
It's an evil clock, son. Evil as Satan himself.
The Judas clock wakes from a 30-year sleep. Hey, Cousin Sebastian.
Cousin? What?
That's what I wanted to tell you. My wife told me your father owned this clock in London.
Oh, well, yes.
I was your father's cousin. You're Sebastian Packer, the little boy who ran away that night.
Cousin Andy.
Yes. I wonder how much you know of that horrible night when your father was killed.
Well, I know the clock fell on Father. I heard the sound from my room, and I was so frightened, I ran down the rear steps in time to see them carry Father away. He was all covered up.
So that was why I didn't find you in your room afterward. It happened so fast. We were sitting, talking. The clocks were striking 12. Suddenly, the base of the clock seemed to cave in, and...
I know.
I bought the clock at an auction a few years later. Had it all fixed. It's good and solid now. I saw to that.
Yes, sir. Well, I suppose I'll run along now, Cousin Andy.
Nonsense. Let's make up for lost time and get acquainted.
Well...
Come now. I have some fine old port from England here. Sit down a while. No, not that chair.
No?
This one's a lot more comfortable.
It's a funny thing. When you work with clocks, as long as I have, you get to philosophizing about time.
That's so. How?
Well, here I sit by the big clock, just as my father sat 30 years ago. You know how many seconds ago that was, Cousin Andy?
No. Do you?
Well, 315,360,000 seconds in 10 years. That'd be 9,460,800,000 seconds in 30 years.
You've got quite a mechanical mind, Sebastian. Here, try this pot.
Thank you. Here's to Father. What's the matter, Cousin Andy? Are you ill?
No.
Your face is quite drawn, gray.
Shut up.
Well, Cousin Andy, it's late. I guess I'd best go. You know, you do look awfully sick. Oh, don't get up, old man.
Sinners,
Here, sit down and relax. Take my chair. It's the more comfortable. Oh, you're shaking like a leaf. Now, just sit quietly. I'll see myself out.
Thundering sinners,
Good night, Cousin Andy.
Oh, Sebastian. Sebastian. Get it off. Back. In heaven's name.
Poor Cousin Andy. You're choking to death. You die hard, too, don't you? It was just a matter of timing. I set the hand a minute fast, and the weight didn't touch your clever little spring device till just now, because it's lighter by 5 pieces of cursed Judas money. Rest easy, Father. And he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed and went and hanged himself.
But a fine chime was had by all. Anybody want to buy a large grandfather clock? I'm in the market for a sundial myself.
A sundial? My, they are old-timey. Say, Mr. Raymond, if you're afraid of clocks that tick, why don't you try to get hold of one of those old Egyptian water clocks?
Oh, Mary, now you're going to tell me that when tea time comes around, the water begins to boil in the clock?
Well, that would be quite an invention. But no, Mr. Raymond, right now I'm not going to talk about Lipton tea. Instead, I'm going to tell our listeners about an important job that lies ahead. A fight that's far from finished. Yes, the battle for Japan. Our government says that this Pacific War will be one of the most bitter and difficult in history. Never before has a nation fought so far away from its own shores. And to support this fight, we at home must work even harder at our home front activities. We must keep on buying more and more bonds, and we must hold on to them. And above all, we must stay on our war job until the job in the Pacific is over.
Well, I'll leave you with a cheerful, timely moral. Oh, that goes with tonight's story. No extra charge. Now, you can figure out how many seconds you've lived. All right, that's your pastime. But you can't figure out how many you've got left. That's just sometime. You know what I mean? Well, I'll see you in just 604,800 seconds from right now. Well, that's next Tuesday night at 9 o'clock, of course. By the way, this month's Inner Sanctum mystery novel is The Lucky Stiff by Craig Rice. Well, now it's really time to close that there squeaking door until next Tuesday night when Lipton Tea and Lipton Soup bring you another Inner Sanctum mystery directed by Hyman Brown. So until then, good night. Pleasant dreams.
Folks, if you'd like to give the boys overseas a real taste of home, then why not include a package or two of Lipton's Noodle Soup Mix the next time you send them a box of food? Yes, Lipton's has the same homemade, chickeny taste as the soup you make right in your own kitchen. That's why it's a thoughtful, welcome little gift to send Lipton's. And as you know yourself, Lipton's Noodle Soup makes a grand snack. So remember, send a package or two to your boy. And remember to tune in next Tuesday night for another Inner Sanctum mystery.
This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.